Welcome to another deep dive. This time, it's all about words.
Words, words, words.
You seem like you're trying to really boost your vocabulary.
Yeah.
You've shared excerpts from an advanced vocabulary book,
Wow.
plus some study notes as well.
Oh, interesting. A good mix.
And I gotta say, I immediately spotted some interesting terms in there,
Oh, yeah. Like what?
like nipped in the bud.
Okay.
Such a descriptive phrase, don't you think?
I love that one.
But I think to really understand some of these words, we need an expert, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, I'm happy to help unpack all the nuances.
okay, so let's just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Let's look at your notes on academic terms,
Sure.
like dissertation and thesis.
Okay.
So you've got a question mark next to those two.
Yeah.
They always kind of trip me up.
Yeah, that's a common point of confusion.
Yeah.
So a dissertation
Yeah.
is what's typically required for like a bachelor's degree or a master's degree.
Okay.
And it's a substantial piece of writing, usually around 10,000 to 15,000 words.
Okay, so pretty long.
A thesis, though,
Yeah.
much larger undertaking,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
often 80,000 words or more,
Wow, that's a lot.
typically associated with a PhD.
Oh.
Think of it as like the academic Everest.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so a thesis is like the ultimate test of scholarly endurance.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I also see in your notes you've got essay, assignment, and project.
Uh-huh.
Does the vocabulary book shed any light on those terms?
Yeah, it makes a really clear distinction.
Okay.
An essay is generally shorter, more focused.
Okay.
Assignment can encompass a wider range of tasks.
Gotcha.
And a project usually involves independent research and a more comprehensive scope.
So why do you think this distinction is so important?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
Using the right term makes you sound more credible,
Right.
especially in an academic setting.
It's about speaking the language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It demonstrates a deeper understanding of the academic landscape.
Right, right.
You know, it's like knowing the difference between a scalpel and a butter knife.
Uh-huh.
You want to use the right tool for the job.
Right.
Speaking of the right tool for the job, you also flagged plagiarism.
Oh, yes, plagiarism.
Yeah, big one.
A serious offense.
Huge.
We all remember those cautionary tales
Oh, yeah.
from school days.
Totally. I mean, sharing stories is a great way to solidify understanding.
Yeah, for sure.
What comes to mind for you?
Well, I remember this classmate I had who tried to submit an essay.
Oh, no.
And it was basically like a slightly reworded Wikipedia article.
Oh.
Yeah, it did not go well for them.
Yeah, that's why understanding plagiarism is so important.
Right.
It's not just about avoiding punishment.
Right.
It's about respecting intellectual property and engaging in honest scholarship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I also see that you even made a note on the pronunciation of plagiarism,
I did, yeah.
which is a very practical concern.
I always stumble over this one.
Yeah.
Is it plagiarism or plagiarism?
Plagiarism.
Plagiarism.
Plagiarism is the correct pronunciation.
Yeah, plagiarism.
Small detail, but can make a big difference.
Right, right.
Now, shifting gears from academia to the world of work, you've also got some vocabulary here related to jobs and careers.
Yeah.
Words like lucrative red tape, takeover.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're gearing up for some serious business.
Maybe, but honestly, I think this vocabulary is helpful no matter what field you're in.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Even if you're not aiming for a corner office.
Right,
You know, understanding financial language is empowering as an individual.
right.
Just think about, like, negotiating a salary
Yeah,
or making informed investment decisions.
that's true.
You know, these words become tools for financial literacy.
I like that words as
Yeah.
tools.
Yes,
Yeah, it's like the more words you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world.
precisely.
Yeah.
Your vocabulary book actually has some great real-world examples of these words in action.
Okay, like what?
Take lucrative, for instance.
Yeah.
It's defined as producing a lot of profit. So imagine you're offered a new job with a lucrative compensation package.
Ooh, yeah.
Definitely cause for celebration.
I would celebrate.
But what about red tape?
Oh, yeah, that one doesn't have the same positive ring to it.
Not so much.
Not at all.
No, it makes me think of like endless forms,
Yeah.
waiting in line at the DMV.
The worst.
So frustrating.
Bureaucracy.
Ugh. Yeah, red tape refers to all those like excessive regulations and procedures
Yeah.
that can really bog things down, often in like government or large organizations.
Right, right.
It's like all the paperwork and hoops you got to jump through
Yeah.
that seem to have no purpose other than to just slow you down.
That's the worst.
Okay, let's consider takeover now.
Oh, okay.
So the book defines this as one company gaining control of another.
Okay, so those sound pretty intense.
They can be.
Yeah.
I mean, a major shift in power dynamics.
Right.
Often involving mergers, acquisitions,
Wow.
sometimes even hostile takeovers.
Oh, wow. That sounds like a high-stakes chess match.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
And finally, there's compromise,
Okay.
which the book explains is finding a solution that satisfies both sides in a negotiation, but like partially satisfies both sides.
Okay, so finding that middle ground, that sweet spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where everyone can walk away feeling like they got something they wanted.
Right, but compromise is sometimes seen as a negative thing, isn't it?
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
The word compromise can have different connotations depending on the context.
Right.
It can be seen as a strength,
Uh-huh.
like, a willingness to be flexible,
Yeah.
find common ground.
Right.
Or it could be seen as a weakness, like you're sacrificing your principles.
Yeah, yeah.
So understanding these nuances is key to using the word effectively.
This is making me realize that learning vocabulary is about so much more than just memorizing definitions.
Yeah.
It's about how words are used,
Absolutely.
their subtle meanings, and how they impact communication.
Exactly. You're not just expanding your vocabulary.
Right.
You're developing a deeper awareness of how language works.
Right, right.
But let's not forget about the personal side of things.
Okay.
Your book also has a section on describing people.
Yeah.
And you've highlighted some really intriguing adjectives.
Oh, yes. Words like scrawny, lanky, gangling.
Yeah.
They're just so much more evocative than just saying thin.
Absolutely.
Right.
What's fascinating about those words is that they go beyond just describing physical appearance.
Okay.
They carry connotations.
Oh, right.
Those subtle shades of meaning
Yeah.
that add depth to your descriptions.
It's not just about size. It's also about personality, even social perception.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
So, for example, like scrawny
Ah.
might suggest weakness
Yeah.
or even unattractiveness,
Yeah.
while lanky
Yeah.
could imply awkwardness or lack of coordination.
Right, right.
And then you've got stocky, which paints a totally different picture.
Totally. Yeah.
Stocky suggests someone who is short and solidly built,
Yes.
often associated with strength
Right.
or physical labor.
It's amazing how the right word can really paint a vivid picture
It is.
in the reader's mind. It's about being a wordsmith, an artist with language.
I love that analogy.
And you've also noted the difference between impetuous and impulsive.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Two words that I always get mixed up.
It's easy to do.
So what's the difference again?
Impulsive means acting without thinking.
Okay.
It can be positive or negative depending on the situation.
Okay.
Impetuous, though,
Yeah.
carries a much stronger negative connotation.
Okay.
It suggests a lack of judgment, a tendency toward rash action.
So grabbing a cookie on a whim might be impulsive,
Yeah.
but quitting your job without a plan would be impetuous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
It highlights the importance of choosing the right word to convey the intended meaning and tone.
Absolutely.
I can't resist sharing a little anecdote about misjudging someone based on their appearance.
Oh, tell me.
Years ago, I was at a conference, and I noticed this rather unassuming man in the corner looking kind of lost.
Okay.
And I just assumed he was another attendee.
Yeah.
But it turned out he was the keynote speaker,
Oh, wow.
world-renowned expert in his field.
Wow. That's a good reminder to never judge a book by its cover.
It is. Humbling experience.
Yeah.
Appearances can be so deceiving,
Right.
and words, when used carefully, can really help us see beyond the surface.
Absolutely.
Now let's move on to your notes on relationships.
Okay.
You've got a whole spectrum of terms here
Yeah.
to describe the nuances of human connection.
Yeah. I mean, relationships are so complex and multifaceted.
Yeah.
And I want to have the vocabulary to really express that richness.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you've highlighted phrases like hit it off, bosom buddies, inseparable.
Yeah.
It seems you're interested in language that really captures both the closeness
Yeah.
and the unique qualities of different relationships.
Yeah, for sure.
What stands out to you about those phrases?
Well, hit it off immediately suggests a strong connection.
Yeah.
Like an instant spark.
Right.
While bosom buddies implies a long-standing friendship, a bond that stood the test of time.
A deep connection
Yeah.
and inseparable
Yeah.
really speaks to that intense bond where two people are practically joined at the hip.
Right.
It's often used to describe childhood friends
Yeah.
or romantic partners
Right.
who are just so deeply connected.
I see.
And you also have here a man after my own heart.
I love that one.
Oh, it's a good one, isn't it?
It's about finding someone who shares your values, passions, outlook on life.
Yes, finding a kindred spirit.
Yes.
This is a beautiful thing.
But of course, relationships aren't always smooth sailing.
This is true.
Well, so you've got terms like misunderstanding and feud.
Yes, the darker side of relationships.
Yes.
Even those difficult dynamics deserve no less vocabulary.
Of course.
So misunderstanding suggests like a temporary clash, a difference in perspective that can hopefully be resolved.
Right.
While a feud implies a much deeper conflict.
Okay.
You know, long-lasting disagreement
Yeah.
can sometimes tear people apart.
Yeah, wow, the complexities of human interaction.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And speaking of nuances, let's move on to your notes on color vocabulary.
Okay.
So you've gone beyond basic color names. You've got terms here like pastel, harsh, vivid, and fluorescent.
Of course, I want to be able to describe the world in all its vibrant hues.
I love it.
Yeah, and, to capture the subtle shades of feeling that colors evoke.
Absolutely. There's a real art to using color words effectively.
For sure.
So these words go beyond just like naming a color.
Right.
They evoke specific moods and impressions.
Like pastel suggests softness, delicacy, even calmness.
Yes.
While harsh can describe colors that are like jarring, unpleasant.
Yeah, exactly.
Often associated with negative emotions.
Vivid, on the other hand.
Yeah,
conjures up
vivid.
boldness, intensity.
And fluorescent almost vibrates with energy.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing how color can have such a powerful impact on our emotions.
It is.
Our perceptions.
It really is.
It's like a silent language that speaks to our subconscious.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I actually have a personal story about that.
Oh, I'd love to hear it.
I was working on a painting once,
Okay.
trying to capture the feeling of a sunset over the ocean.
Oh, wow.
And I kept using these like muted, almost grayish tones.
Okay.
But it just wasn't working, The painting felt flat and lifeless.
Right.
And then I had this aha moment, and I switched to really vivid oranges and pinks.
Nice.
And suddenly, the whole painting came alive.
Wow.
It was as if the colors themselves were expressing the joy and the warmth of that setting sun.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it perfectly illustrates the transformative power of color.
It really does.
It reminds me of a time when I was designing a website.
Oh, tell me about it.
And the initial design used a lot of like cool blues and grays, which felt very corporate and impersonal.
Okay.
But then we decided to incorporate a warm, sunny yellow
Oh, nice.
as an accent color.
Okay.
And suddenly the whole website felt more welcoming and engaging.
Wow.
It was remarkable how just a small change could completely shift the user experience.
It's true.
What do you think this says about the importance of color in design?
I think it shows that color is not just an aesthetic choice.
Yeah.
It's a powerful tool for communication. It can evoke emotions and associations.
Absolutely.
Choosing the right colors can make or break a design, a painting, an outfit even.
For sure.
It's about understanding the psychology of color.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of expressive language,
Yeah.
let's explore your notes on verbs that describe movement, but also have metaphorical meanings.
Okay.
So you've highlighted words like rocket, tumble, plummet, and creep up.
Yeah, here's where it gets really interesting.
It does, doesn't it?
I love how these words can paint such vivid pictures in our minds, both literally and figuratively. It's like they add a whole other dimension to language.
It's true. They really demonstrate that incredible flexibility
Right.
and the power of words to convey both concrete actions and abstract concepts.
Right.
So, for instance, rocket
Yeah.
literally describes something shooting upward with great speed.
Right.
But it can also be used metaphorically to describe anything that experiences rapid growth or success.
Right, like her career rocketed after she won that prestigious award.
Exactly.
But it can also have a negative connotation, like inflation is rocketing out of control.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Same word, different shades of meaning.
Yeah.
Depending on the context.
Right.
Now, what about tumble?
Okay.
Literally means to fall or roll end over end. But metaphorically,
Yeah.
it can describe a sudden decline
Yeah.
or a series of misfortunes.
Okay, yeah, like the stock market tumbled after the CEO's unexpected resignation.
Yes, exactly.
There's a sense of chaos and unpredictability in that word.
There is. It evokes a sense of things spiraling out of control.
Right.
Now let's consider plummet, which is similar to tumble,
Okay.
but it suggests a steeper and more dramatic fall.
Okay, so if tumble is like tripping down the stairs,
Yeah.
plummet is like falling off a cliff.
A very vivid analogy.
Yeah.
Think of it like this. His confidence plummeted after he failed the audition.
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay.
And lastly, we have creep up,
Okay.
which literally means to move slowly and stealthily.
Right.
But metaphorically, it can describe something that gradually increases or becomes noticeable over time.
Like doubt began to creep up on her as she faced the daunting challenge.
Perfect example.
It's such a great word for describing that insidious feeling of uncertainty.
It is.
Yeah.
That can slowly take over.
Yeah.
You're really picking up on the nuances beautifully.
Thank you.
And, understanding these metaphorical verbs can be particularly beneficial for someone like you,
Oh, how so?
given your interest in language and communication.
Yeah.
Well, metaphors are powerful tools for writers and speakers.
Yeah.
They add depth and imagery to language,
Right.
make it more engaging and memorable
Yeah.
for the audience.
I've always been drawn to metaphors, but I never thought about how mastering them could actually improve my communication skills.
Yeah.
It's like learning a secret code to unlock more expressive and impactful language.
Exactly.
Wow.
And that's what makes this deep dive so exciting.
Yeah.
It's not just about expanding your vocabulary. It's about
Yeah.
expanding your capacity for creative expression.
Absolutely.
But before we delve further into the world of metaphors, let's take a short break.
Okay.
We'll be back soon to continue our exploration of your fascinating vocabulary collection.
Sounds good. We were just talking about those verbs that have both literal and metaphorical meanings.
Right, like rocket and plummet.
It's incredible how much depth a single word can have.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, you also highlighted drift and flow in your notes.
Oh, yeah, good ones.
What made you choose those? Well, they both suggest movement, but in a more subtle way.
That's a good observation.
Yeah.
Drift often implies a lack of, direction or purpose.
Okay.
Like someone just floating along without a clear path.
Right, like he drifted through life without any clear goals or ambitions.
Yeah, a poignant example.
Yeah.
Now, slow, on the other hand, suggests a much smoother, more effortless kind of movement,
Okay.
often associated with creativity or ideas or conversation.
Like the music flowed through her, and her fingers danced effortlessly across the piano keys.
Beautiful, I love that.
There's a sense of grace and ease in that word.
There is.
Yeah.
It's interesting how those subtle differences in meaning can really change the feeling a word evokes.
Yeah, for sure.
This actually brings us to a fascinating concept that you might find intriguing.
Okay, what's that?
The idea of polysemy.
Polysemy. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, rings a bell.
Yeah.
Polysemy refers to words that have multiple meanings.
Right.
Like, take the word run, for example. It can refer to physical movement,
Right.
a business operation, a sequence of events, even a tear in fabric.
Wow, yeah.
Have you ever noticed how one word can just encompass so many different ideas?
Yeah, now that you mention it, it's amazing how often we encounter words with multiple meanings.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like language has all these hidden layers.
It does.
Of meaning.
Exactly. Highlights the incredible efficiency and flexibility of language.
For sure.
A single word can be a chameleon.
Yeah.
Adapting its meaning to fit the context.
Right.
And speaking of context, I see you have some excerpts here from the vocabulary book that delve into the history of English.
I do. Yeah, that topic definitely interests me.
Okay, cool.
I've always been fascinated by how English has evolved over centuries.
Yeah.
Borrowing words from other languages
It's true.
and constantly adapting to new ideas.
A testament to the dynamic nature of language.
Yeah.
So you've highlighted terms here like Old English, loan word, and etymology. All crucial concepts for understanding the rich tapestry of English.
Yeah, for sure.
So what intrigues you about those words?
Well, Old English just sounds so different from modern English.
It does.
It's almost like a foreign language.
It is, it is.
I'd love to know how it transformed into the language we speak today.
Yeah, like tracing the family tree of words.
Yeah, exactly.
And loan words.
Yeah.
Evidence of the interconnectedness of languages.
Yeah.
I mean, English has borrowed words from countless other languages.
Right.
Enriching its vocabulary.
Right, like restaurant, which we borrowed from French,
Yeah.
or algebra, which has Arabic roots.
That's right.
It's amazing to think about how words have traveled across time and continents.
Like each word has its own passport,
Yeah.
stamped with the history of its journey.
I love that.
And then you've got etymology,
Yes.
which is the study of these word origins,
Yeah.
like detective work, uncovering the hidden stories behind the words we use every day.
I love that, like, each word has a secret past waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. It deepens our appreciation for the richness and complexity of language.
Yeah, for sure.
Your vocabulary book also touches on the concept of registers,
Okay.
which might be helpful to you in your quest to expand your vocabulary.
Register. So is that about the different levels of formality in language?
Exactly.
Okay.
Refers to the different styles of language that we use in different situations.
Right.
Think about how you talk to your close friends.
Yeah.
Versus how you might write a formal email.
Oh, right. Big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
You wouldn't use slang or casual expressions in a professional setting.
Right. Of course not.
So you've highlighted terms like formal, informal, colloquial, even slang.
I have, yeah.
All labels that help us navigate the social nuances of language.
So it's about choosing the right tone and level of formality.
Exactly.
Yeah, like using y'all might be perfectly acceptable with friends in the southern U.S., but not in a business meeting.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And slang be the most informal register. Right. Often used by specific groups or communities.
Right.
Changes rapidly over time.
Yeah, it's like slang is a language within a language.
It is
constantly evolving.
Constantly evolving and reinventing itself.
Yeah.
Understanding these different registers is essential for effective communication.
Right.
Because using the wrong register can lead to misunderstandings.
Of course.
Or even make you appear unprofessional.
It's like wearing the wrong outfit to an event.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
You want to make sure your language matches the occasion.
Exactly.
Now this brings us to another crucial aspect of language. The concept of connotation.
Connotation.
Yes.
That's about how words can carry implied meanings or emotional baggage, right?
You got it.
Yeah.
It's the feeling or attitude a word evokes in addition to its literal definition.
Right.
So, for instance, the words cheap and frugal both mean inexpensive.
Okay.
But cheap has a negative connotation. It suggests poor quality or stinginess.
Right, whereas frugal implies more carefulness and good value.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
What other examples come to mind?
You could say someone is stubborn or determined.
Okay.
Both words describe a strong will.
They do.
But stubborn has that negative connotation of being inflexible or unreasonable.
Right.
While determined implies a positive sense of purpose and perseverance.
Excellent examples.
Yeah.
Understanding connotation is crucial for both interpreting and crafting effective language.
For sure.
A skilled communicator uses connotation to evoke specific emotions and subtly influence the audience.
It's like choosing the right spice to add flavor to a dish.
I love that.
Yeah.
The right word can completely transform the taste, or in this case, the impact of your message.
Exactly, yeah.
And speaking of crafting effective language, I see you've also included excerpts from a section of your book that focuses on rhetoric.
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by how language can be used to persuade, inform, even inspire.
Right, like a superpower.
It is, yeah.
So your vocabulary book highlights some key rhetorical devices, like metaphors, similes, and analogies.
Yes.
Do any of those stand out to you?
Well, we've already touched on metaphors, which I find incredibly engaging.
Yeah?
It's like they create a bridge between the familiar and the unfamiliar,
They do.
helping us grasp complex ideas in a more intuitive way.
Exactly. They create these implicit comparisons.
Right.
Like, life is a journey.
Right, right.
Similes, on the other hand, use like or as
Okay.
to make explicit comparisons.
Okay.
Like, he was as strong as an ox.
And analogies explain something complex by comparing it to something more familiar,
Yeah.
like explaining electricity by comparing it to the flow of water in a pipe.
Perfect examples.
Yeah.
All of these devices add depth and imagery and even humor to language,
They do.
which makes it more engaging and memorable.
For sure.
And speaking of memorable language, I see you flag some particularly vivid idioms and expressions.
I love idioms.
That's fun, aren't they?
They're so quirky.
They are.
And they don't always make sense, literally.
Not always.
But they add so much color and personality to language.
They really do.
Yeah.
They're like little linguistic puzzles,
Yeah.
often rooted in cultural history and folklore.
So I've got kick the bucket, spill the beans, and bite the bullet.
Oh, the classics. Okay, so kick the bucket.
Yeah.
A humorous way to say die, albeit a little morbid.
Yeah.
But,
But still funny.
it's a good one.
Yeah.
Spill the beans means to reveal a secret,
Right.
often unintentionally.
And bite the bullet means to face a difficult situation with courage and determination.
That's right.
Yeah. It's like forcing yourself to swallow something unpleasant but necessary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Idioms really are a testament to the playful and creative side of language.
I think so.
They add humor, surprise,
Yeah.
even a sense of shared cultural understanding.
Yeah, I agree.
So what do you think draws you to these expressions?
I think it's their ability to convey so much meaning in a concise and colorful way.
Uh-huh.
They're like little snapshots of culture and history.
Yes. Each one encapsulating a whole story in just a few words.
We do.
So learning new idioms makes me feel like I'm not just expanding my vocabulary, but also my understanding of the world.
That's beautifully said.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to the power of language to connect us to different cultures and perspectives.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you're interested in how language can be used to inform and persuade.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered exploring the concept of conceptual metaphors?
Conceptual metaphors.
Yeah.
That's a new one for me.
Okay, so conceptual metaphors are these underlying frameworks
Okay.
that shape how we think and talk about abstract concepts.
Okay.
So, for instance, we often talk about time as if it were money.
Right.
We spend time, we waste time, we save time.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, those everyday expressions are actually reflecting these deeper conceptual structures
Right.
in our minds.
Yeah.
Or consider how we talk about arguments as if they were wars.
Okay.
We attack someone's position.
Defend our own views.
Right.
And win or lose debates.
That's true.
So these metaphors aren't just figures of speech.
Right.
They actually shape how we approach these concepts.
It's mind-blowing. It's like language isn't just a tool for communication.
Yeah.
It's a window into how we think and understand the world.
It is.
I'm definitely going to have to delve deeper into this conceptual metaphor thing.
It's fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Highlights that profound connection between language and thought.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's not get too abstract.
Okay.
You know, your vocabulary book also has some practical advice on using language effectively.
Okay.
And I see you've diligently flagged a section on phrasal verbs.
I have. Oh, phrasal verbs.
Yes.
Those combinations of verbs and prepositions.
That's right.
They can be so tricky.
They can be challenging.
Yeah, for sure.
But they're also incredibly versatile and expressive.
Right.
And you've highlighted phrases here like come across, put forward, and brush up on.
I have, yeah.
All examples of how phrasal verbs add nuance and idiomatic flair to language.
For sure.
What are your initial thoughts on those?
Well, I think what makes phrasal verbs so tricky is that their meaning isn't always obvious.
It's true.
From the individual words.
Right.
Like come across can mean to find something unexpectedly.
Yeah.
But it can also describe how someone appears to others.
Exactly. It's all about context.
Yeah, it is. It's all about context.
You've hit the nail on the head.
So put forward.
Put forward means to suggest or propose something.
Okay.
And brush up on means to improve or refresh your knowledge or skills.
Okay. Like you're taking a basic verb and adding a preposition to create a whole new layer of meaning. It's like building with Legos.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
You can combine the same basic pieces in endless ways to create something new and unique.
Right.
What's also fascinating is that a single phrasal verb can have multiple meanings.
Of course.
Depending on the context.
Right, like run into can mean to collide with something physically.
Yeah.
But it can also mean to meet someone unexpectedly.
That's right.
Yeah, it's like a linguistic puzzle.
It is.
Figuring out which meaning is intended.
You got it.
Yeah.
Testament to the dynamism of language and the importance of paying attention to context.
For sure.
Now, shifting gears from the practical to the adventurous.
Okay.
I see you've marked the travel vocabulary section of your book.
I have, of course.
With great enthusiasm.
Who doesn't love a good travel adventure?
I know, right? Yeah. And I want to be able to describe my experiences with that same vividness and detail that I'm finding in these new words.
Exactly.
So you've highlighted terms like off the beaten track, bucket list, and wanderlust.
Yeah.
What draws you to those terms?
Well, off the beaten track speaks to that desire to escape the tourist crowds.
Yeah.
And discover those hidden gems, those authentic experiences that you won't find in a guidebook.
I love that. And then a bucket list is a collection of experiences you want to have before you kick the bucket.
Right.
A rather humorous, albeit slightly morbid way to refer to the end of life, as we discussed earlier.
Right. But it's about embracing life to the fullest.
It is.
And making the most of every opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and wanderlust perfectly captures that insatiable urge to explore the world.
It does.
Experience new cultures, broaden your horizons.
It's a feeling that resonates with many of us.
Yeah.
And having the vocabulary to express those feelings really enriches our travel experiences.
It does. I can imagine myself standing on a mountaintop,
Yeah.
gazing at a breathtaking vista and thinking, wow, this is definitely one for the bucket list.
It's a beautiful image.
Yeah.
Speaking of images, I see you've also flagged the photography vocabulary section of your book.
I have, absolutely.
Okay, is photography another one of your passions?
It is. I love capturing the world through the lens of a camera.
It's a beautiful thing. And you're always looking for new ways to describe the visual world.
Yeah, I'm always looking for new ways to articulate the nuances of light and shadow and composition.
Well, you've highlighted terms here like composition, exposure, and depth of field.
Yes.
All essential concepts for understanding and appreciating the art of photography.
For sure.
So composition refers to how the elements within a photograph are arranged.
Right.
The lines, the shapes, the colors, the textures
Right.
that create that visually pleasing and balanced image.
Yeah.
And then you've got exposure,
Yeah.
which relates to the amount of light that reaches the camera sensor,
Right.
affects the overall brightness and darkness of the photograph.
And can completely change the mood and feel with an image.
It can.
Yeah.
And then depth of field
Yeah.
describes the area of the image that's in focus.
Mm-hmm.
From the foreground to the background.
Right, yeah.
It can be used to create a sense of depth
Yeah.
and really draw the viewer's eye to a specific point of interest.
You've got to.
Understanding these terms really allows you to engage with photography
Yeah.
on a deeper level,
Right.
to appreciate the artistry and technical skill behind a captivating image.
Right. It's like learning a new language to decode the visual world.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm starting to realize that learning vocabulary is like learning a new language,
Yeah.
not in the traditional sense of speaking a foreign tongue,
Right.
but in the sense of expanding your awareness and opening yourself up to new ways of seeing
Yeah.
and experiencing the world.
I agree.
That's a profound insight.
Thank you.
And it brings us to another fascinating aspect of language, the concept of linguistic relativity.
Linguistic relativity,
Yeah.
also known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis.
You got it.
Wow. Okay.
So the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis
Okay.
suggests that the language we speak influences how we think and perceive the world.
Okay.
In other words,
Yeah.
our thoughts are not independent of language,
Right.
but are shaped by the specific words and grammatical structures available to us. It's a very complex idea,
Yeah.
but it raises some really thought-provoking questions.
So you're saying that people who speak different languages might actually see the world differently.
That's one interpretation of the hypothesis.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it suggests that language is not just a tool for communication.
Right.
It actually shapes our understanding of reality.
Right.
Of course, it's a controversial idea,
Okay.
and there's an ongoing debate about the extent to which language really influences thought.
Okay.
But it's something to think about.
I'm definitely going to have to research this more.
I encourage you to.
It's like language is this hidden force shaping our perception of the world.
It is a powerful force.
Yeah.
But let's not get too lost in the theoretical.
Okay.
Your vocabulary book also has some very practical advice
Okay.
on using language effectively.
Right.
What have you noticed in your readings?
I'm still thinking about how language can shape how we actually see the world.
It's a fascinating concept.
But I'm also drawn to some of the really practical advice in this vocabulary book.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
There's a whole section on effective communication in the workplace.
Right. Very important.
What insights did you get from that?
Well, it really emphasizes the importance of clarity,
Okay.
conciseness, and choosing the right tone for your audience.
Okay.
Also highlights active listening and nonverbal communication.
It's a good reminder that effective communication is about more than just using fancy words.
So true.
It's about understanding your audience.
Yes.
Crafting your message carefully.
Absolutely.
Being present in the moment.
Exactly. It's about connecting with people on a human level.
Yeah.
And speaking of connection, have you explored this section on descriptive language yet?
Oh, yes. That section is full of gems.
I think you'll enjoy that one.
It talks about using sensory details to create vivid imagery
Yes.
and evoke emotions in the reader.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah, I'm really drawn to that idea of painting pictures with words.
It's a powerful technique.
It
By using words that appeal to the senses,
Yeah.
sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch,
Right.
you create a more immersive and engaging experience
Yeah.
for your audience.
For sure.
So, for example,
Yeah.
instead of saying the food was delicious,
Yeah.
you could say The aroma of roasted garlic and herbs filled the air, and the first bite of the juicy steak was an explosion of flavor.
That's such a good example.
It's all in the details.
Yeah, that second sentence really transports you.
You do
So
that.
that moment,
Nami.
engaging your senses.
You're right there at the table.
It really is the difference between reading a recipe
Yeah.
and savoring a meal.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's the power of descriptive language.
it is.
It can transform words on a page
Right.
into a multi-sensory experience.
Wow.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave you with one final thought-provoking idea.
Okay.
Given your interest in metaphors and how they shape our thinking, have you ever considered exploring the field of cognitive linguistics?
Cognitive linguistics.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that.
So cognitive linguistics is a branch of linguistics
Okay.
that explores the relationship between language, thought, and culture.
Okay.
Examines how our minds create meaning through language.
Right.
And how those meanings are reflected in our everyday communication.
Interesting.
It delves into really fascinating concepts.
Yeah.
Like conceptual metaphors, mental spaces, and frames,
Okay.
all of which provide insights into how we understand and interact with the world around us.
It sounds fascinating, like a natural extension of my interest in vocabulary.
I think you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah, it's like this deep dive has opened a doorway to a whole new world of linguistic exploration.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Remember, expanding your vocabulary is not just about learning new words.
Right.
It's about expanding your understanding of the world and your place in it.
Absolutely.
Language is a powerful tool for thought, for creativity, for connection.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So keep exploring, keep playing with language, and keep that sense of wonder alive.
I will. This deep dive has been an incredible journey.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being such an insightful guide.
Happy word hunting.